USS Lexington, Philippine Sea, June 19, 1944, 10:39 a.m. Lieutenant Alexander Vrachyu pulls back the canopy of his F6F Hellcat and climbs into the cramped cockpit. The deck crew is still warming up the big Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, the 18-cylinder radial already thundering with 2,000 horsepower. Vrachyu barely hears it. His mind is elsewhere, running through intercept calculations, ammunition counts, fuel burn rates. Somewhere out there, 110 miles to the west, a massive wave of Japanese aircraft is coming. 50 Yokosuka Judy dive bombers escorted by dozens of Zeros. The radar operators below deck are tracking them, watching the blips multiply on their scopes. This is it. This is the attack everyone knew was coming, the decisive battle. The moment when Japan throws everything it has left at the American fleet in one desperate gamble to turn the tide of the war. Vrachyu settles into his seat, checks his 6 50-caliber Browning machine guns. 100 rounds per gun for the inboard weapons, 400 for the outboard. In total, 2,400 rounds of ammunition ready to tear through aluminum and flesh. He's done this calculation so many times, it's automatic. At a rate of 800 rounds per minute per gun, that's about 30 seconds of continuous fire before he's Winchester out of ammunition. But Vrachyu knows he won't need 30 seconds. He learned long ago that most kills come in brief, decisive bursts. 2 seconds of accurate fire from 6 Browning 50s is enough to shred any aircraft ever built. The trick isn't carrying more ammunition. The trick is making every bullet count. The catapult officer gives the signal. Vrachyu pushes the throttle forward, and the Hellcat lurches down the deck. The catapult's compressed air system hurling 13,000 pounds of fighter into the sky at flying speed. The deck drops away beneath him. The Pacific stretches endlessly in all directions. And somewhere in that blue immensity, 110 miles west, the Japanese are coming. What Vrachyu doesn't know, what none of the American pilots climbing into the sky that morning know, is that they're about to participate in one of the most one-sided aerial massacres in the history of warfare. A slaughter so complete, so absolute, that pilots will later compare it to shooting turkeys in a barrel. The Japanese are coming, yes, but they're flying into a meat grinder. And the machine doing the grinding is the Grumman F6F Hellcat, the aircraft that Japanese pilots once laughed at, the clumsy American brute, the inferior copy of their beautiful Zero. They're not laughing anymore. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor burns, the Arizona sinks, the Oklahoma capsizes, and in the skies above Oahu, sleek silver aircraft with red circles on their wings dance through American anti-aircraft fire like they own the sky. Because they do. The Mitsubishi A6M-0 is the finest carrier fighter in the world, and on this morning it proves it absolutely. American pilots scrambling to intercept in their obsolete P-40 Warhawks and F-4F Wildcats are outclassed in every way that matters. The Zero turns tighter, climbs faster, has longer range. In the hands of Japan's elite naval aviators, veterans of the war in China, it's unstoppable. By mid-1942, the Zero's reputation has reached mythical proportions. Allied pilots whisper about it in ready rooms, exaggerating its capabilities into something supernatural. It can turn on a dime. It can outclimb anything. Its 20mm cannons can shred an American fighter with a single burst. Get into a turning fight with a Zero and you're dead. Most of this is true. The Zero is a masterpiece of aircraft design, the product of Jiro Horikoshi's genius for extracting maximum performance from minimum weight. Everything about the Zero is optimized for air combat. No armor to slow it down, no self-sealing fuel tanks to add weight, no heavy guns beyond what's absolutely necessary. Just speed, maneuverability, and range. The numbers are staggering. In the first 6 months of the Pacific War, Zero pilots achieve a kill ratio of 12-1. 12 enemy aircraft destroyed for every Zero lost. Its dominance on a scale rarely seen in aerial warfare. American pilots flying the F4F Wildcat, a stubby, underpowered fighter that's already obsolete, know they're outmatched. They develop tactics to survive. Never turn with a Zero. Never climb with a Zero. Use your superior diving speed to escape. Hit and run. Never stay to dogfight. It works barely, but it's the tactic of desperation, the acknowledgement that American aircraft simply can't compete with the Zero in a fair fight. Japanese pilots know this. They see the fear in how American pilots engage them. The quick passes, the refusal to commit to combat, the constant running away. It breeds confidence, arrogance even. The Americans build good ships, yes, but they can't build fighters. They don't understand air combat the way Japan does. They don't have the spirit, the bushido, the willingness to strip away all unnecessary weight and protection in pursuit of pure performance. So when the first reports filter back about a new American fighter entering service in early 1943, Japanese pilots don't worry much. Another American brute, probably. Heavy armored, loaded with guns. Fast in a straight line, maybe, but unable to turn or climb. Easy prey for a skilled Zero pilot. They call it the Grumman F6F. Some intelligence reports suggest it's just an enlarged F4F Wildcat, the same basic design scaled up. The photographs show a fighter that looks exactly like what Japanese pilots expect: a fat, bulky machine, all engine and guns. It's powered by a massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp radial engine, producing 2,000 horsepower, nearly 3 times the power of the Zero's Nakajima Sakai engine. All that power pushing around 13,000 pounds of aircraft. The Zero weighs barely 6,000 pounds. Simple physics says the heavier aircraft can't possibly match the Zero's maneuverability. This is just another American mistake. Another brute force solution from a nation that doesn't understand finesse. The first combat encounter happens on September 1st, 1943. F6F Hellcats from USS Independence intercept and shoot down a Kawanishi H-8K Emily flying boat. It's an easy kill. The Emily is a lumbering reconnaissance aircraft, not a fighter. The Japanese aren't impressed. But then comes November 23rd, 1943. Tarawa Atoll, Gilbert Islands. Hellcats engage Zero fighters in significant numbers for the first time. The Japanese pilots confidently turn into combat, expecting the usual dance, where the lighter Zero outturns the heavier American fighter, getting on its tail, lining up the kill shot with 20mm cannon fire. It doesn't happen that way. The Hellcats don't run. They don't refuse combat. They turn with the Zeros, stay with them through the vertical, and when the two fighters merge, it's the Zeros that explode. 6 Browning 50 caliber machine guns, firing 4,800 rounds per minute, shred the Zero's unarmored airframe in seconds. The lightweight construction that made the Zero so maneuverable becomes a fatal weakness. A 2-second burst from a Hellcat dumps 130 rounds into the target. No aircraft can absorb that kind of firepower, certainly not one without armor or self-sealing fuel tanks. By the end of the engagement, 30 Zeros are shot down. 1 Hellcat is lost. The Japanese pilots who survive return to their carriers, confused, shaken. The new American fighter isn't behaving the way American fighters are supposed to behave. It's turning with them, staying with them, and when it shoots, they die. The reports go up the chain of command. The Americans have deployed a new fighter. It's fast, it's rugged, it has heavy firepower, and critically dangerously, it can dogfight. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, Japanese naval aviators feel a cold touch of doubt. What the Japanese don't understand, what they can't understand, because their entire design philosophy is built on different assumptions, is that the F6SF Hellcat is purpose-built to kill Zeros, not by avoiding them, not by running away, but by meeting them in close combat and destroying them. The design process started in mid-1941 before Pearl Harbor, before anyone in America knew how good the Zero was. Grumman's engineers were working on a successor to the F4F Wildcat, something with more speed and climb rate. Then Pearl Harbor happened, and suddenly the Zero wasn't a theoretical opponent. It was the nightmare that every American carrier pilot would face. Grumman got lucky in early 1942 when American forces recovered a mostly intact Zero from the Aleutian Islands after the pilot crash-landed on a Kutan Island and died. The aircraft was shipped to California repaired and subjected to exhaustive testing. American pilots flew. It pushed it to its limits, mapped every advantage and every weakness. The data went back to Grumman's engineering team in Bethpage, New York. Roy Grumman himself reviewed the tests. The message was clear: build a fighter that can match the Zero's maneuverability while exceeding it in speed, firepower, and survivability. The result is the XF6F3 prototype, first flown on July 30th, 1942. It's not elegant like the Zero. It's not stripped down to minimum weight. It's a blunt instrument, a flying tank, but the engineers have achieved something remarkable. Despite weighing twice as much as a Zero, the Hellcat can nearly match it in turning performance at speeds above 200 miles per hour. Below that, the Zero still turns tighter, but above 200 mph, which is where most combat actually happens, the Hellcat keeps up. More importantly, the Hellcat does everything better than the Zero where it really matters. It's faster at all altitudes. It climbs better above 14,000 feet. It rolls faster at any speed above 235 mph, and it can dive away from any engagement using its superior weight and structural strength to pull away from a pursuing Zero that can't follow without tearing its wings off. The armor works. The self-sealing fuel tanks work. Japanese 20mm cannon hits that would send a Zero spiraling down in flames just punch holes in a Hellcat's wings. The pilot behind his armored windscreen and seat back plate keeps flying, keeps fighting. And those 6 50 caliber Brownings mounted in the wings are devastating. The Zero carries 2 20mm cannons with 60 rounds each, later upgraded to 100. They're powerful, yes, but the low rate of fire means every shot has to count. Miss and you've wasted a precious piece of limited ammunition. The Hellcat's Brownings fire so fast, pour out so much lead that precision becomes less critical. Get close, hold the trigger for 2 seconds, and the target disappears in a cloud of debris. The Hellcat doesn't need to be surgical. It can afford to spray. And when it does, nothing survives. Production begins in October 1942. By March 1943, the first Hellcats are aboard USS Essex ready for combat. 18 months from prototype to operational deployment. It's a stunning achievement testament to American industrial might. The same factories that were building the Wildcat retool to build the Hellcat without missing a beat. Grumman's plant number 3 in Bethpage starts cranking out Hellcats so fast that parts of the factory are still under construction, while production runs are hitting full speed. By the end of the war, Grumman will build 12,275 Hellcats in just over 2 years. Japan, by comparison, builds 10,499 Zeros in 6 years. The mathematics of industrial warfare are simple and brutal. America can replace losses faster than Japan can inflict them. But numbers alone don't win air battles. The Hellcat needs pilots who understand how to use it. And this is where America's training program makes the difference. By 1943, the U.S. Navy is graduating 10,000 pilots per year. Each one receives approximately 500 hours of flight training before seeing combat. They learn instrument flying, navigation, gunnery formation tactics, carrier operations. They practice until everything becomes muscle memory. Japan, by contrast, is running out of skilled pilots. The early war veterans who flew at Pearl Harbor, who mastered the Zero in combat over China, who achieved those stunning early kill ratios, they're dead. Shot down at Midway, at Guadalcanal, at dozens of brutal engagements across the Pacific. Japan's training program can't replace them, not at the rate they're dying. By late 1943, new Japanese pilots are graduating with as little as 40 hours of flight time. 40 hours versus 500 hours. A Japanese rookie climbing into a Zero in 1944 is facing an American pilot with 10 times his experience, flying an aircraft that's at minimum equal and in most ways superior. The result is predictable. The battles throughout late 1943 and early 1944 show the pattern. Over Rabaul, in November 1943, Hellcats and Corsairs claim nearly 50 Japanese aircraft in day-long fighting. The Japanese pilots are brave, determined, willing to die. But bravery doesn't matter when the enemy pilot has better training and a better aircraft. The Zero pilots try to use their superior low-speed maneuverability, turning tighter and tighter bleeding speed to get into position for a shot. But the Hellcat pilots have learned the counter. They don't chase the Zero into a low-speed turning fight. They use their superior speed and power to maintain energy boom and zoom climb away and come back with an altitude advantage. The Zero pilot turns to find his target gone, then hears the hammering of 650s as the Hellcat drops on him from above. When the Zero tries to escape by diving, the Hellcat follows effortlessly, staying on its tail all the way down, closing the distance, lining up the shot. The Zero's lightweight frame shudders and flexes in the high-speed dive. The pilot can feel the wings bending, the control surfaces growing mushy. Pull too hard and the aircraft will disintegrate. But the Hellcat behind him has no such limitations. Its massive engine pulls it through the dive like a freight train. The Zero pilot is trapped, unable to turn without losing more speed, unable to dive without exceeding his aircraft's structural limits. The outcome is inevitable. Throughout early 1944, the statistics accumulate. Kill ratios tip further and further in America's favor: 3-1, 5-1, 7-1. The Japanese pilots are no longer confident. They're desperate. They know they're flying obsolete aircraft with inadequate training against an enemy that has every advantage. But they fly anyway because the code demands it, because the Emperor demands it, because to refuse would be unthinkable. Then comes June 19th, 1944, the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa commands the first mobile fleet, 9 carriers, bearing approximately 450 aircraft. It's the largest concentration of Japanese naval air power since Midway. Ozawa's plan is simple: launch massive strikes against the American invasion fleet at Saipan, destroy the carriers, break American air superiority in the Central Pacific. If it works, it will change the entire trajectory of the war. Facing him is Vice Admiral Mark Mitcher's Task Force 58, 15 carriers, 900 aircraft. Over half of them are F6F Hellcats. The Japanese pilots brief for the mission knowing they're facing impossible odds. The Americans have radar that can see them coming from over 100 miles away. They have superior fighters. They have better trained pilots. But the mission goes forward anyway because there's no choice. Japan is losing. This is the moment to make a stand. At 8:30 a.m., the first wave launches. 69 aircraft head east toward the American fleet. American radar picks them up immediately at 110 miles out. Task Force 58 turns into the wind and launches every available fighter. Within minutes, 220 F6F Hellcats are climbing to intercept altitude, forming a defensive screen 50 miles west of the carriers. The Japanese pilots see them coming on radar, know what's waiting for them, push forward anyway. They have bombs to deliver, torpedoes to drop, a mission to complete. They never reach the American fleet. The Hellcats hit them at 10:36 a.m., 55 miles from the carriers. What follows isn't a battle, it's a slaughter. The Japanese formation breaks apart under the onslaught. Zeros try to engage, but they're outnumbered 3-1, and the few who do manage to dogfight with Hellcats discover that the American fighters are flown by veteran pilots who have spent months learning how to kill Zeros efficiently. Commander Charles Brewer of Fighting Squadron 15 shoots down 4 Japanese aircraft in the first pass. His wingman gets 3. Lieutenant Junior Grade Alexander Vraciu, already an ace with 13 confirmed kills, finds himself in the middle of a formation of Judy dive bombers. They're flying in loose formation, relying on their Zero escorts for protection. But the escorts are gone, overwhelmed by other Hellcats, and the Judys are defenseless. Vraciu settles in behind the first bomber. His 6 Brownings hammer out a 2-second burst. The Judy's fuel tank explodes. Vraciu slides over to the next bomber. Another burst, another explosion. He's firing only when he's certain of the shot, conserving ammunition, making every round count. In 8 minutes, Vraciu shoots down 6 Judy dive bombers, using only 360 rounds of ammunition. It's the most efficient shooting of the entire battle. When he lands back on Lexington, Admiral Mitcher watches from the bridge as Vraciu climbs out of his cockpit and holds up 6 fingers, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. The Admiral smiles back. A photographer captures the moment for posterity. By the time the first wave is finished, 42 Japanese aircraft are shot down. Only a handful reach the American fleet, and they accomplish nothing. The second wave launches at 9:00 a.m., 128 aircraft strong. It suffers the same fate. The Hellcats rip into them relentlessly. More Zeros burn. More bombers spiral down, trailing smoke. A third wave of 47 aircraft launches. Then a fourth wave of 82. Each time the pattern repeats. The Japanese aircraft fight bravely, desperately, but courage is no substitute for training and equipment. The Hellcats shoot them down in droves. Throughout the day, American radar operators watch the Japanese formations on their scopes, track them inbound vector Hellcat squadrons to intercept. The Japanese never achieve surprise. They never coordinate their attacks effectively. They just keep coming wave after wave, flying into a defensive screen that tears them apart. By nightfall, Japan has lost close to 400 aircraft. The Americans have lost 29, most to anti-aircraft fire rather than aerial combat. The kill ratio is approximately 14-1, but in pure fighter versus fighter combat, it's closer to 31. One American pilot surveying the wreckage of Japanese formations radios back to his carrier. It's just like an old-time turkey shoot. The name sticks. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. A name that captures the one-sided nature of the slaughter. The day Japan's naval air power died. Commander David McCampbell, who will become the U.S. Navy's top ace of the war with 34 confirmed kills, participates in the battle and later describes what it was like from the cockpit. They came at us in waves. We had altitude, we had position, we had radar guidance, and we had the better aircraft. They never had a chance. The surviving Japanese pilots returned to their carriers in shock. Hundreds of their comrades are dead, shot down over the Philippine Sea, or drowned when their damaged aircraft couldn't make it back. The carriers that launched them are themselves under attack by American submarines. The fleet carrier Taiho explodes and sinks from internal fires. The carrier Shokaku goes down after torpedo hits from the submarine USS Kavala. When the battle ends, Japan has lost over 600 aircraft and 3 fleet carriers. American losses total 123 aircraft, most lost to fuel exhaustion during a long-range strike rather than combat damage. The numbers are stark, undeniable. The F6F Hellcat has crushed the Zero so completely that Japan will never recover. The pilots who survived the turkey shoot carry the knowledge back with them. The Americans are no longer afraid. They don't run from combat. They seek it out. And when they find it, Japanese pilots die. By late 1944, the kill ratio has inverted completely. Where once the Zero achieved 12-1 in its favor, now Hellcats are achieving ratios of 19-1 against all Japanese aircraft types. 75% of all U.S. Navy air-to-air victories in the Pacific War are credited to F6F Hellcats. Total enemy aircraft destroyed 5,223 confirmed kills. The Zero. Once the terror of the Pacific has become prey, Japanese pilots flying obsolete aircraft with inadequate training face American pilots in superior fighters who have been taught specifically how to kill Zeros. The outcome is predetermined. The only question is how many Japanese pilots will die before their commanders accept reality. Japan tries to develop replacements for the Zero. The Mitsubishi A7M Repu is designed to match the Hellcat's performance, but development delays and production problems mean only 9 are built before the war ends. The Kawanishi N1K Shiden is excellent, but arrives too late and in too small numbers to matter. The Zero soldiers on because there's nothing else available, growing more obsolete with each passing month. By mid-1945, Japanese pilots are graduating from training with as little as 20 hours of flight time. 20 hours. Barely enough to learn how to take off and land. They fly their first combat mission with almost no experience, face American pilots with hundreds of hours flying aircraft that are objectively better in every measurable way. The result is genocide, not a war. A systematic slaughter. The final kill ratios in some engagements reach 51 or higher. Japanese pilots die so fast that some squadrons are effectively wiped out between morning and afternoon. The Japanese know they're dying. They know the war is lost, but the culture, the code, the emperor's will all demand that they keep fighting. So they climb into their Zeros one last time and fly toward formations of Hellcats that will kill them within minutes. In the ready rooms of American carriers, pilots mark their kill counts on the sides of their aircraft. 5 kills makes you an ace. Dozens of Hellcat pilots become aces. Some achieve it in a single mission. The sheer abundance of targets combined with the lopsided advantage of aircraft and training means that being a Hellcat pilot in 1944 is statistically safer than almost any other combat role in the Pacific. The F6F Hellcat racks up the best safety record of any American fighter in World War II. Not because it avoids combat, but because when it meets the enemy dies, and the Hellcat pilot goes home. Lieutenant Alexander Vrachyu finishes the war with 19 confirmed kills, all in Hellcats. Commander David McCampbell finishes with 34, earning the Medal of Honor and becoming the Navy's ace of aces. Dozens of other pilots achieve double-digit kills. The list goes on, each name representing a pilot who climbed into an F6F Hellcat and discovered that the aircraft the Japanese once laughed at was the finest carrier fighter of the war. Post-war analysis confirms what the combat statistics already showed. In head-to-head comparisons with captured Axis fighters, the Hellcat ranks at the top in most categories. Evaluators praise its ease of handling, its ruggedness, its carrier suitability, its firepower. It's not the fastest fighter of the war that honor goes to the Corsair. It's not the most maneuverable. Some say the Zero still holds that title at low speeds, but it's the most effective, the most practical, the one that wins. The Zero enters the war as the finest carrier fighter ever built and leaves it as a death trap flown by undertrained kids against an enemy they can't hope to defeat. The Hellcat enters the war as the laughing stock of Japanese pilots and becomes the weapon that sweeps them from the sky. June 19, 1944. USS Lexington, 6:47 p.m. Lieutenant Alexander Vrachyu climbs out of his Hellcat after his 6th kill of the day. The deck crew swarms around the aircraft, refueling it, rearming the guns, checking for damage. Vrachyu walks to the ready room in a daze, still processing what just happened. 6 kills in 8 minutes, using less than 400 rounds of ammunition. Admiral Mitcher finds him there, shakes his hand, congratulates him. The Admiral understands what this day means, not just the kills, not just the victory, but what it represents. American naval aviation has come so far from the desperate days of 1942, from being outclassed and outfought to dominating the sky so completely that Japanese pilots are being shot down before they can even find their targets. Vrachyu looks at his hands, still shaking slightly from adrenaline. He thinks about the 6 Japanese pilots he killed today. He doesn't know their names, doesn't know if they were veterans or rookies, doesn't know if they had families waiting for them. All he knows is that they came at him in level flight, holding formation, and his Hellcat's guns tore them apart. So fast, they never even had time to react. It should feel like victory. It feels like execution. But this is what the F6F Hellcat was built to do. This is why Grumman spent 18 months perfecting its design. This is why American industry built over 12,000 of them in just 2 years. To take the legendary Zero fighter and render it obsolete. To transform American naval aviation from desperate survivors into apex predators. Mission accomplished. The Hellcat flew combat missions until the end of the war, continuing to dominate Japanese opposition wherever it appeared. When the surrender came in August 1945, Hellcats were still the U.S. Navy's premier carrier fighter. After the war, most were quickly retired, replaced by jet fighters that made even the mighty Hellcat obsolete. Some continued flying in training roles into the 1950s. A few survive today in museums and private collections maintained by people who understand what these aircraft achieved. One hangs in the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum, suspended from the ceiling in the World War II gallery. Visitors walk beneath it without pausing, more interested in the sleeker, faster jets nearby. The Hellcat hangs there in silence, its paint faded its guns. Cold, carrying the memory of 5,023 enemy aircraft destroyed, and the Japanese pilots who learned too late that American engineering could build a fighter that would sweep them from the sky. The Japanese pilots who laughed at the F6F Hellcat in early 1943 didn't laugh for long. By late 1943, they feared it. By mid-1944, they knew that seeing Hellcats on radar meant death was coming. And by 1945, the few pilots who survived long enough to gain experience learned a simple truth that contradicted everything they'd been taught about American fighters. In a dogfight between a Zero and a Hellcat, bet on the Hellcat, every single time. The aircraft they dismissed as clumsy, the fighter they thought was too heavy to dogfight, the American brute that supposedly couldn't understand the finesse of aerial combat. It swept them from the sky, every last one of them. And it did it with a 19-1 kill ratio that stands as one of the most dominant performances in the history of aerial warfare.